What's going on, guys? Once again, I'm gonna have to apologize to you guys. Every now and then I have to make at least parts of my videos at locations that's outside of my studio setup at home, and this is one of those occasions. So it's a nice day here in the Bay Area, but anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the video. Now, this video is about the VGA, the Video Game Awards. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, I'm not going to talk about Starfield because many of you may not know, but actually Hogwarts Legacy is a game that I consider to be my personal greatest game of all time. And I think that it should be a shoo-in to be at least listed in the list of games that's being considered for Game of the Year. I think the idea that it's not being considered is absolutely absurd. Now, let me tell you my personal feelings about the VGA in general. Even before all of this, I've never really cared about it. I've never really cared for it. I understand that a lot of people do like it, so I'm not saying it's not good. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that it's boring. I'm just going to tell you that I don't find it interesting. But I know that a lot of people do love it, and it's not like if I was some kind of dictator that I would get rid of it just because I don't like it, because I know there's a lot of people who do like it and they do watch it. So I have never really cared for that whole process. I've just never really cared. It has nothing to do with any of the politics behind it or anything like that. It just never really grabbed me, and every time I try to watch it, I can never finish it. And sometimes I can go in and out of it, but other than that, I really don't care for it. Even though I don't care for it, I do find it rather interesting what they did to Hogwarts Legacy. This is ridiculous, and I think at best it is very cowardly, because a lot of people are assuming that these people are afraid of some kind of backlash. We also have to consider the fact that they themselves may be the backlash. They may be the types of people who would bring backlash if anyone considered making Hogwarts Legacy Game of the Year. Now, we're all familiar with the drama behind Hogwarts Legacy. J.K. Rowling said some things that I believe offended the LGBT community and the gay community also, I believe, overall. This game and the creators of the game actually had nothing to do with that. And she didn't have anything to do with the creation of this game other than the fact that she owns the product itself. So yeah, I'm sure she probably got some money off of it. But other than that, she didn't have anything to do with all of the hard work that these men and these women had put into this game before that drama even came about. And to be honest with you, there may have been a lot of those people who didn't even know that this woman made these comments. I mean, they've been coming to work every day. They've been putting in several hours every day creating this game. And many of them probably didn't even know about it. And they found themselves caught up in this situation where now all of a sudden they don't, the gay community or the LGBT community did not want people to go out and buy the game. And it's like, are you kidding me? I mean, yeah, these people have been getting paid, and they've been making, they've been getting paid. So if no one would have bought the game, financially, they wouldn't have taken a big hit. But there are probably also bonuses involved, because I do believe that sales do contribute to how much their bonuses are. So, and also, look, artists want people to see their work. So there is that as well. These people want people to see their work. When they create something beautiful and amazing, they want people to see it. Okay? So to me, that whole thing was just ridiculous and just totally blown out of proportion. And I just think sometimes, man, we just have to just face the fact that sometimes people are going to say things that we don't like, things that we find offensive. And when we go back and we reach all the way back to when somebody said something years ago to try to destroy something now, I just think that's crazy, especially when those people are not personally involved with whatever project you're trying to bring down. I mean, they had a trans character in the game. So do you think that would have been the case if Rowling would have had something to do with it? You think if she was a decision maker in this project, you think that that would have been the case? More than likely not. I think that the people who are behind the award show, they made a very, very bad mistake. And I think that they're going to crush themselves before they even become mainstream. And see, the reason I say they're not mainstream yet is this. That award show is for gamers who are, that's our hobby. We're dedicated to that hobby. Like some people like building models. Some people like to go hunting. Some people love a particular sport, and they're so deep into it, they know everything about it. They follow all the news surrounding that sport. Some people are gun enthusiasts. They know everything about guns. Okay, this is our hobby. We are a small group of gamers. There are gamers who play video games every day. Many of them play a certain video game like soccer or Madden, or maybe they play a baseball game, and occasionally they may play something else. But they game every day, but they're not like us. They're not the enthusiasts like we are. We're so into it. We follow the media. We watch gaming YouTube videos. We read articles. We have subscriptions to gaming magazines. Most gamers, even some of the ones who play every day, they don't get into all of that. And most of them probably don't even know the VGA exists. Now, if you take the movie industry, for instance, their award system is known by everyone. You have people out here who probably aren't into movies much at all. They probably rarely ever watch a movie. They probably rarely ever go to the movies, rent a movie, or anything like that. But you know what? They know about the Academy Awards. So that's what I'm saying. The movie industry is the type of industry where even people who aren't so much into their product, people still know about the Academy Award. Okay, it's kind of like, even if you're not a basketball fan, you know who Michael Jordan is. The VGA isn't like that. It's not on that level. So I think that this hurts. If they don't make an immediate turnaround right now, after this, they're pretty much going to destroy their credibility, and no one is going to take it seriously. And I think after that, what might end up happening is somebody might come in and see an opportunity to come in and fill in this spot. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's possible. But I do know that they're hurting themselves, and they need to turn the ship around and correct the course right now. This should be the last time that they do anything that could be considered highly suspect. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, man, Hogwarts Legacy was such a great game. That game should have been in a number of categories. Not only one, not only two, it should have been in a lot of them, and it should have been in the top running for Game of the Year. The game is just that great. There are certain games that I play that I love. I can understand why people, like, if somebody says they didn't think it was all that, I could understand it. Like, I like No Man's Sky. I can understand why someone wouldn't like No Man's Sky if they didn't really look into it and find out exactly what No Man's Sky is. You know, I can see how they could look at it and make an assumption that they think they know what it is, and then they purchase it, and then they find out, oh, this is not quite what I thought it was. You know, there's a lot of people who say they think No Man's Sky is boring. There's a lot of people who think Elite Dangerous is boring, because you look at Elite Dangerous and you think that, oh, this is not what I thought it was. I mean, it's partially what it looks like. It's a space game with some shooting and some combat, but there's a whole lot more to it than that. So I could see how someone could purchase Elite Dangerous and say, hey, this is not what I thought it was. I could see how someone could purchase Starfield and say, hey, this is not what I thought it was. I thought it was this, but it's that. I could see that, especially if you didn't do any research on the game. But Hogwarts Legacy is one of those games. If you knew what it was, if you're familiar with the product, if you're familiar with the lore of the product, and especially if you're crazy about the movies, and you bought that game and you love playing video games, if you told me you were disappointed in that game, you would have to explain that to me. We would have to have a deep conversation about that. All those other games I listed, if I heard someone say they didn't like it, the conversation would be very brief. We may not even have one. I'd be like, oh yeah, okay. But if you told me you didn't like Hogwarts Legacy, and I knew that you were familiar with the lore of that game and all of the products, the books, the movies, etc., and you still told me you thought Hogwarts Legacy was meh, I would find that very interesting and shocking. That's how great that game was. It is rather, like it doesn't exist anymore. What am I thinking? But anyway, that game was just that great. And the fact that it was not listed in any categories at all whatsoever, I think it lends to the fact that we can legitimately say that there is something conspiratorial going on here. Not tinfoil hat conspiratorial, like really people got together and had some conversations and some decisions were made. I think we throw this word conspiracy theory. I know Paris was on Double Barrel Gaming and he threw that word out there. And I don't want to say I went at him, but I kind of called him out in the chat about that. I think we abuse that too much. We label things that are probable, things conspiracy theories, because we don't want to believe what's being said. We don't want to believe the accusations that's being made, especially if those accusations are being made about institutions that we want to rub shoulders with and be a little friendly with. We abuse that word way too much, and we need to stop. We need to start labeling it. If something is probable, if it's possible, we need to stop labeling things conspiracy theories. We need to stop saying an Xbox tax is a conspiracy theory. In the context that we use conspiracy theory, there's nothing wrong with the actual words conspiracy theory, because most investigations start out as a conspiracy theory. There is a theory that some conspiracy, if the crime that was committed involves more than a few people, there is a theory that some conspiracy went down that led to a crime. Most crime investigations, they start like that. They don't start knowing all the facts, so you wouldn't need an investigation. But in the context that it's normally used, we need to stop doing that. In the context that we normally use it, we use that to say, nothing to see here. This is totally crazy. This is tinfoil hat nonsense. Just don't even pay attention to it. Just keep walking. Don't even look at it. Okay? That's ridiculous. I think we need to stop, because look, Watergate. And if you're not old enough to know what Watergate is, I'm not going to give a history lesson. Look it up. Watergate. Watergate was a conspiracy theory until it wasn't. Illegal torture and during the Iraq War, that was also called a conspiracy theory until it wasn't. And if you're politically inclined, I'm sure you've heard of Pizzagate. Well, Pizzagate itself may not have turned out to be true, but look, let's be honest, that whole thing with Epstein, oh man, that was a little bit more elaborate than even Pizzagate. This man had a whole island dedicated to such depravity. Yeah, that was a conspiracy theory, because there were rumors about Epstein, but they were chalked up as conspiracy theories. I mean, let's go back a little. Woodrow Wilson. Now, many of you, I say that name if you're either a student of history, if you're, well, I'm not that old, but I heard about it during my time about President Woodrow Wilson. He had a stroke when he was president, and his wife, I believe her name is Edith Wilson. Yeah, it was Edith. She took his place and started making all of the executive decisions. Now, this was not out in the open. This was a rumor. It was a conspiracy theory. They hid this. They hid the fact that he had a stroke. He couldn't walk. They hid this. This was a conspiracy theory. Both was a conspiracy theory. The stroke was a conspiracy theory, and the fact that his wife Edith was the ones making all of the executive decisions. People laughed at it. It was nonsense. It was absurd. Until it wasn't. Now it's known for a fact. So again, we need to be really careful with labeling things like the accusations that people make against IGN, the accusations that people are making against the BGA, with labeling it a conspiracy. A conspiracy theory to me is something like, I don't know, you know the White House? Sure. Well, that's not actually the White House. Actually, there's a structure under the White House where aliens rule the world. Or the earth is flat. Or the moon landing wasn't real. Those are things that's worthy of being called a conspiracy theory. And even then you got to be careful, because just when you think something is crazy, it might actually turn out to be true. And when it comes to the whole IGN thing, people certainly don't need to be calling that a conspiracy theory, because it's not like someone is saying there's this conspiracy against Xbox that goes all the way up to the top in IGN, and that executives of Sony and executives of IGN and executives of whoever and all these different outlets are meeting in some dark hotel suite, and they're discussing how they're going to move against PlayStation. I mean, excuse me, what am I talking about? Move against Xbox. No one is saying that. What people are mostly saying is that there is a few people, enough people, a handful of people who are human beings. Either if they're older like me, they either grew up with PlayStation and just always have been a PlayStation person, never could see themselves being loyal to any other or playing in any other type of game other than with PlayStation. Then they got into media, and then they got close to PlayStation, got to know people with PlayStation, and now they're biased. That's all people are saying. No one is saying that all of IGN, because IGN has different outlets. You got to consider the fact that there were some IGN outlets that were abroad that were giving, for example, Starfield very high scores. So of course no one is saying that. Let me give you guys an example. There was a company that I worked at many years ago. If I had to throw a number out, I'd say maybe about 20, 25 years ago, something like that. And it was a company where most of the departments, they had employees, but they also contracted out a lot of work. And the reason they did that is so during economic hard times, if they needed to cut back, most of the people that they would cut back on would be contractors who basically worked outside of our building. The contractors didn't work side by side with us. Now, the contracts went out to people. That decision was basically made by a handful of people. One supervisor, 2 were team leaders, and the other ones, there was like 4 other ones who weren't even supervisors at all. These people decided who got different contracts with the company. In order to get a contract with the company, you were supposed to meet a certain criteria. There were certain things that you were supposed to have as a company. For example, you were supposed to cover your employees with healthcare insurance. That was one of the things, just as an example. Okay, it started out like that, of course, but then over a period of time, rumors began to get around that these people who had the power to decide who would get what contract started giving contracts to people based on favoritism. Some of those people were friends of theirs, and then it got to a point where they started giving contracts to people based on what kind of kickbacks they were getting. Now, a lot of this stuff hit the rumor mill, basically by contractors who found out about it, and they were a little bit pissed, and they were talking to other people who worked with the company. So all of this stuff was in the rumor mill first. Keep in mind, just regular employees that worked in a certain department who are giving these contracts to people who should not have these contracts. My point is that something like that does not need to go all the way up to the top, and it doesn't need everybody to be involved in order for something like that to go down. You only need a handful of people. You don't need a whole company to be involved. And no one is saying that all of IGN is involved in some conspiracy against Xbox. Clearly, like I just told you with Starfield, there were some other outlets with IGN from abroad who gave it a favorable score. So whether it's true or not, it may not be true. I mean, I don't believe it's true. I think that there are a couple of people at IGN that just don't like Xbox, and they're going to do anything they can to do something unfavorable against Xbox. Sorry if you heard that truck go by, but I can't prove it for a fact, and I don't need to. It's not like I'm talking about sending them to prison. This isn't a court of law. This is me expressing my opinion. We do this every day. We act against people based on our suspicions every day. Everyone does this. Everyone does it. Every single it is a part of being human. We make decisions every day based on our suspicions. When a person has to interview a lot of people, they have to interview people, and they have to come up with certain conclusions about people that they may not even know. It's a feeling that they get a better feeling with certain other people, and they hire people. That other person, one of the people that they turned down, could have been a better person, but they just basically have to go off. They have to make a judgment based off of their instincts. We all do it. If you're a lady, you looking at a parking lot, you're having a walk to the bus stop. Normally you walk through this kind of somewhat dark parking lot, and there's no one out there that's suspicious, but that particular day there happens to be a guy out there in a hoodie, and he's just sitting there with his hoodie on, and you think to yourself, wow, okay, maybe it will be unsafe for me to walk through this parking lot. Maybe I shouldn't walk through there because of that guy. That guy could be the most harmless thing in the world. You're not sending the guy to prison. You decide to walk another way because you suspect that that guy may be up to something nefarious, that he may be up to no good. Knowing all the while you don't know that factually. It could be that if you walk through that parking lot, that guy with the hoodie on could have started talking to you, and he could have ended up being the future father of your children and your beloved husband. Who knows? So, if anybody wants to say, oh, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be accusing of this. Yeah, I'm accusing them, but I'm not talking about convicting anyone with IGN. But anyway, guys, that's all I want to say on that, man. I mean, in the end, it really doesn't hurt me. Like I said, I'm not really into the VGA. I really don't pay attention to IGN at all whatsoever. But it was just kind of remarkable to me, because for me, in my opinion, I think Hogwarts Legacy, and look, it got rave reviews. Other than that whole Rollins thing, everyone praised it. It got all kinds of accolades, all kinds of roses. And I just think it's a bit absurd that it did not get mentioned in any category at all whatsoever. And to me, I think it proves that there is some bias in different institutions in gaming, because if you can be biased with one thing, you can be biased with another. But like I said, that is my opinion. But hey guys, what do you think? Look forward to hearing your opinion in the comments. Please be respectful, as you guys always are. And until next time, stay safe.